Today's teaching is brought to you by a young man who is a student in the Word. He will be bringing his teaching in the heart of a student. Not a teacher, but someone who is learning to walk in the ways of Yahweh through the example of Messiah. We value the growth and encouragement to all, especially those who are learning to discern truth in a world full of noise. In this teaching titled, What is Love? He will share what he is learning about how to love one another in covenant with Yahweh, in our daily lives, and how we can realign our focus back to the Father. May his desire to grow and remain focused encourage you to do the same as we continue walking together on the narrow path.
Shalom, shalom. Awesome. Praise God. It's an honor and a blessing, privilege, to sit before you to share this good news. And it's my desire that the Most High and Yeshua HaMashiach be esteemed, and that the people of Yah also lifted up. Praise Yah, hallelujah. So we're going to be taking a look at what is love. I know Mom G's going to get me for that. A deeper look into the nature of love and what is revealed in the scriptures. And what I want to start with here is the word love. So just right off the bat, I'm just going to get into it. Just knowing that all scripture is breathed out by Elohim and is profitable for teaching, reproof, setting straight, and instruction in righteousness. And what's in my heart is to come as a disciple of the Messiah and disciple of my teacher, and just to keep it in the element of I'm a student. So I'm not master of any of these things. These are things I'm practicing. Hopefully we all are practicing, and we can feel good about what we're getting right. And we can also increase and cut off the things that need to be removed. So here, looking at the word love here on the screen, we got the Hebrew word for love. It is Ahavah. So just going to take a look in a little bit, just a small dive into the language a little bit, nerd out just a second. So the word love has a three-letter root, which most people they know the verb form, past tense verb form, which would be ahav. But there is a two-letter root for the word love as well, and that word is hav. So looking into this, we're going to say, okay, one of the things we want for us to get out of this, before I dig a little deeper, is what does it mean? What does it truly mean to love? And how we often use the word love to describe our feelings, but is that the full picture? So really, what is love? So again, here, y'all might be familiar with even the Greek counterpart to this word, which would be agape. But we're going to be sticking mainly with the Hebrew expression. There's a lot of similarities, of course. So here, this Hebrew word spelled hey bet, as you see the two red letters in the middle, they mean gift. It's implying that something is given, or to give, or an act of service. And with the hey, if we were to look at the hey, the original hey, it's like a man with his arm stretched out like this. So from this idea that your hands are directed away from yourself. So have you ever heard of the idea of not showing up empty-handed? This mindset is often said for us, especially as Hebrews, that we bring a gift, that we have something to offer. It's an expression to show the person or the event or whatever you're part of that you value it. And the same thing applies to us as an individual. We are to bring our best self, the best of ourselves, all of our strength, all of our mind, all of our heart, into everything we do, even towards our enemies. And even how often we are to offer ourselves as a gift, making ourselves, making us, making our way of life like a message of love. Because when we do that, we can bring restoration. We can bring strength to weak relationships. We can restore broken relationships. We can build new foundations, starting them on a firm foundation. And I guess like really what it is like if I show up with the best of me, then somebody will see the real me. But if I hide who I am, really, what kind of love is that? Is that really love? It's based on something phony. It's not the real me. And I know a common example for this, the best example I can think of is Yaakov. Yaakov, Jacob, in when he showed back up in the land, he showed up to present himself before his brother Esau. What did he do? He and Esau being his big brother, who was bitter towards him, who was angry towards him, who had something to hold up against him. Jacob, what did he do? He offered gifts, gift after gift. And then when they finally came face to face, he even bowed himself with humility 7 times towards the ground. And with that, I believe that the pride of his brother was broken. And he was able to receive his brother again. And I just know that we have examples of the opposite between brothers not giving their best. We have, as we say in English, Cain and Abel, or Abel and Cain, that those two individuals, they didn't have a relationship that we thought could be restored. So instead of his brother humbling himself and giving himself his best, it was easier for him to just hold hatred and bitterness in his heart, which grew into envy and then into murder. So in its basis, in the basic sense, love should be taught as a selflessness, a dying to self, a giving and giving yourself. In this love, it's pretty much, it doesn't originate from a place of flesh. So love is not choosing to satisfy my flesh, but to deny it. And really, and I know we're going to get into this. It's not merely an emotion, but a deliberate choice. So what I really want to explore here is that we're going to explore love not as this fleeting feeling, or this emotion that is to be embraced, but something that is demonstratable, act an act of loyalty, obedience that is rooted in scripture. So there's a verse here, it's in Romans. It says, I call on you, therefore, brothers, through the compassion of Elohim, to present your bodies as a living offering, set apart and well pleasing to Elohim. Praise Yah. Could you change the slide, please? And this is a root place for us. So we're going to say, what is the source of love? Ahavah. Where does it originate? Well, it originates with Yah. So Yah, we're looking at this, we're speaking from this verse, and we know Yochanan here is talking about Mashiach. And it says, we love him because he first loved us. So we learned that this is not something we've originated, but we've received. Next slide, please. So now we're going to look at 1 John 4, same chapter, except we're going to go a couple verses higher, verses 7 through 11. And it says, beloved, let us love one another, because love is of Elohim. And everyone who has born of Elohim has been born of Elohim. Everyone who loves has been born of Elohim and knows Elohim. And the one who does not love does not know Elohim, for Elohim is love. By this, the love of Elohim is manifested in us, that Elohim has sent his only brought forth Son into the world in order that we might live through him. In this, love. Not that we loved him, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be atoning offering for our sins. Beloved ones, if Elohim so loved us, we ought also to love one another. So here again, highlighting the source. Yochanan is brilliant with this. The source of our love is Yah. It's not in what you have done or can do. It's that we are going to live our lives out in the gratefulness and what Yah has done for us. So if you could change the slide, we're going to take a look at the first mention of the word love in scriptures. And it's going to be found in Bereshit, as Genesis chapter 22, verse 2. And this right here, I'm looking at this. Now we're getting into it as the source, like we said earlier, the source of love. And this is what I call the test of love. And right now, Abraham is our example, Abraham. And it is written here, and he said, Yah being the he, take your son now, your only son Yitzhak, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as an ascending offering on one of the mountains which I command you. I love here that we have love and command in the same sentence. And by that, I really think you could set the tone for the rest of what I have to say. Because you can see that love is first expressed here in the scriptures as a challenge to Abraham, that he would be unlike those who came before him. In which sense? He's going to deny his flesh. He's going to deny it and choose to be devoted to Yah over it. This is a great contrast to the man in the garden who chose his own flesh in the context that his wife, that they were the same. And in him choosing his wife, it showed that he was not willing to be obedient. But yet here we even have Abraham and his son Yitzhak. So both of them were willing to commit themselves totally into the Father's hands. Contrary to popular belief, Yitzhak wasn't a little boy at this point. We'd be able to say he was in his 30s, somewhere in his 30s. And we're seeing that he trusted his father. So he gave himself into his father's hands, Abraham, so that Abraham would be right with his father. Quite literally, I'm seeing here that Yitzhak was dead to himself. He let go of his life and he was no longer focused on his self. So this right here is teaching me that love is not self-centered. Sometimes when we're thinking about love, it is something that is a contrast to the flesh because it's like a tug of war between the flesh and the spirit. This can go on all the time. And we have some encouragement in Galatians chapter 5, verse 16. It says, walk in the spirit and you shall not accomplish the lust of the flesh. Galatians 5:17. For the flesh lust against the spirit and the spirit against the flesh, for they are opposed to one another, so that you do not do what you desire to do. For those who live according to the flesh have their mind set on the matters of the flesh, and those who live according to the spirit, the matters of the spirit. Romans 8:5. For the mind of the flesh is death, but the mind of the spirit is life and peace. Romans 8:6. So we need to remember that we can abstain from fleshly battles because they're just never going to end. And what we see here in Abraham's picture here, this thing that he loves, whom he loves, the thing that he loves, he is putting on the line to love the Father who is greater. So denying self in this sense is really hard. And I know in a relationship context, especially with people who are dating or looking to find a relationship, keeping all things clean, by the way, they really sometimes we can be put to that test, like I was bringing up with the flesh, because Mr. or Mrs. Right or right now can win you over. It can win you over and cause you to choose what is less rather than what is best in the Most High. And we have to remember that when we are in that place, that the flesh is unable to receive the matters of the Ruach. So what I get out of that is that when you are battling between your flesh and your spirit, we got to remember that love to the Father, obedience to the Father, giving your best to the Father, it must be deeper. It must be more than skin deep, because your future is greater than your present feelings with the Father. And as it is written in 1 Corinthians 2, the natural man does not receive the matters of the spirit of Elohim, for they are foolishness to him. And he is unable to know them because they are spiritually discerned. But he who is spiritual indeed discerns all matters, but he himself is discerned by no one. So just keep it in mind when you are seeking to do these things that are dedicated unto the Father, you need to realize we're not choosing ourselves. I need to realize I'm not choosing myself. I'm setting the things of the Father before the things of my flesh. And it will give you the strength. But just if you were to continue in this chapter, you can see Abraham receives a blessing and it's really good. We're going to skip that part though. So if you could change the slide. So we're going to take a look at this. So what we saw with Abraham in the previous slide is that Abraham, he proved his love. And I'm looking at it as in this sense, his love loyalty. Is that the form of it, being loyal? And he proved it over time versus things that spring up quickly. Because if it comes up quickly, it can also perish quickly. And the Messiah taught us something similar in the parable of the sower when he talked about The fact that the sun rising was a type of persecution. And he says that once it puts its heat on something, the pressure of that situation, persecution through the word, it causes something to fall apart. So I'm looking at this as pressure exposes the truth. But when something survives pressure, that's how you know it's true. That's how you know it's genuine. Here's a context for that out of Mishle, Proverbs chapter 30, verse 33. For as milk under pressure brings forth curds, so a nose under pressure brings forth blood. So wrath under pressure brings forth strife. So I'm saying that also in a put it in like juxtaposition type situation. So if you put something under pressure, it will reveal something else. It can reveal what's hidden. And the same thing with your love. Sometimes we're overlooking that it's good to put love to the test, something that's being missed often. Is that, but when we're talking about the test, it's not something that's erroneous. You're not doing something that's impossible, but when you really love it, it's a genuine thing. Because underneath love, sometimes there are some toxic bonds that are often hidden, like fear and abuse. Because love is not rooted in terror. So why would we consider that love? Or what about infatuation and loan, like being an intense craving for something? That's often just short lived, like being hungry. And on the basis of it, it's all just really superficial, and it's out of it's something that's imagined. It's out of your imagination. It's not the real way things are. Or making everything extremely conditional. This if then this that then that mindset. That's not love. Or love that is based on what people like are saying love, but it's not love when it's surrounded with dishonesty or lying. So instead of bringing forth these behaviors when the pressure comes on, let it be something that's genuine, is from the Most High. And I propose the question: can we win others over with the love of Yah instead of losing to the love of the world? So, in that sense, we saw that with Abraham, he gave away what he cherished the most. The Most High also demonstrated this, which we're all so familiar with when we all talk about in John chapter 3, verse 16. How he gave his only son, just as Abraham had done, which was what the greatest act the father could do. So if you could please change the slide. We're going to take a look at something the Messiah had to say about this love that was given. We always go to John 3:16, but this time we're going to go a little further down. We're going to look at what he's talking about. We're going to go to 3:19. And as it is written, and this is the judgment, that light has come into the world, and man loved the darkness rather than the light. See, this is the problem. This is why. And he actually gives us the answer here. Because their works were wicked. See, if I keep it hidden, I feel good about it. But guess what? The pressure comes and it can be exposed. And he's telling us in verse 20, for everyone who is practicing evil matters hates the light. So how can I say that I love, or that I have love for the Father, or love for his people, or love for any of the things that he says that are good, when I have secret evil matters that I'm practicing? He says that I hate the light. If that's me, I hate it. And he says, lest his work should be exposed, because the power of doing wickedness is that you think it's hidden. But verse 21, but the one doing the truth. So right here, we learned that love is connected to truth, and it's an action, comes to the light. So they're not ashamed. They're willing to step out into the things of the Father, to be new, to leave behind dead works. It says, so that their works are clearly seen, and that they have been wrought, that they've been born. I'm doing the things of Elohim. So what we see is who I serve is who I love. So accepting the love of Yah is what causes me to do the truth and to obey, exposing lives, exposing myself in the light, and then remaining in it. Because you can step right back into the darkness. We have to choose to stay in the light. Could you change the slide, please? So now we're going to switch it up. We're going to go from the source of love being Yah, to the proof of love. How do I prove it? What is the proof of love? The proof of love is obedience and action. So here it is written in Yaakov chapter 2, verse 18. But someone might say, see that someone might say part, that's where I think we get so caught up. We've been so convinced that what comes out of our mouths is the proof of what's our actions, the proof of our actions. We've let thoughts and ideas replace replace the action of the Father that He's required for us to do. So someone might say, "You have belief, and I have works. Show me your belief without your works, and I shall show. I shall show. That's the key. I shall show you my belief by my works." So we can't be in a place anymore where we take thought, idea, and speech as works because they are not. And do our actions really match our claims? Is my belief in words alone? And it really gets me with that popular phrase, am I a fan of the things of the Most High or a follower? Is this something I just think about, or am I actually putting it into practice? Because quoting it and talking about it isn't the practice. Doing it, as it is written in Yeshayahu, Isaiah 29:13. And Yahweh says, because this people, Ha'am Hazeh, this people has drawn near to me with its mouth. So we've drawn near, we've come close, we've tried to make it like the bulls of my lips alone matter. We have to have more. We have to have something that goes along with it. Got to have the action. They draw near to me with its mouth, and with its lips they have esteemed me. But here's the most important part, but it has kept its heart far, far from me. And when you look at the distance between your heart and your mouth, it's really interesting because you really think they're close. But in this context, the master is saying there is a valley between them. And it says, and fear. And their fear of me. They don't esteem me correctly. They don't have awe of me. They have dread of me. And they have turned him into nothing more than a command that is taught. So turning the belief aside, what this is saying is that they've made the belief just a bunch of sayings and good ideas and good thoughts. That belief is unable to save. And it really makes me think about like how the Father designed us, that our eyes, I can choose to shut my eyes, my mouth, I can choose to shut my mouth, but I have to deliberately plug my ear. I have to deliberately plug my nose. By that, what I'm saying is that the actions are going to truly show what is really behind what I'm doing. Because if I can't show self-control, if I can't show the proof of my actions in obedience, then it's just a bunch of words. And you don't need to convince me. When it's all said and done, too often I think we are thinking that we should have remorse towards one another for failing to obey. Yes, of course, we do have communal understanding here, but ultimately, your fear should be towards the Father, not just a bunch of religious aspects. So here we're seeing that love is not just a word or a feeling. It's uh, it's something you need to show. If you could please change the slide. So here we have a lot of powerful ifs. So what I'm seeing again, as I said, that the statement of love isn't what proves it. Let's see what Yeshua had to say about this in Yochanan chapter 14:15. If you love me, you shall guard my commands. I love this. It does not take a mountain of interpretation here, but we love to get deep. But this is a direct, practical command. It's very expensive. I mean, it's very, I said expensive. It isn't very extensive. It's very on the surface. He says, you love me, do what I say. And to know what I love is really to look at how am I showing it. And these other verses we have here are really good as well, not needing a mountain of explanation. But the master is saying here, he who possesses my commands and guards them, it is he who loves me. You're going to get a lot of echoes from the Messiah here. It is he who loves me and is loved by my Father and shall manifest himself to him. And I shall love him and manifest myself to him. It isn't, and my thoughts are that it is only when you are loving the Messiah that you then are really proving that you are loved by the Father and that you are in his spirit and that you are now able to give that love to others. But if you shut off the love of the Father and the Son, you are no longer in the spirit. So is that really love? And Yeshua drops this super big if in verse 23. If anyone loves me, he shall guard my word, and my Father shall love him, and we shall come and make our stay with him. And he who does not love me does not guard my words, and the word which you have heard is not mine, but the Father who sent me. That should really make it pretty obvious. He's like, if you don't get it, this isn't my idea. This is my Father's idea. He is the one that told me to look for the proof of the love and action. If you guard my commands, you shall stay in my love, even as I have. See, he's a true teacher because he is practicing this. He's a true leader. He's a true king. He is teaching us what he is exactly doing. And he says, my commands, if you stay in them, then you shall stay in my love as I have guarded my Father's commands and stay in his love. So here, we really have no excuse because this is pretty obvious for all of us who say we love him and that he has saved us. And I have great belief in him and trust in him, but yet I don't obey. So no matter how great of an emotion we have towards the Father and the Son, we will never be able to replace obedience or what is written. And don't take my word for it. If you could please change the slide. This is what Yeshua said himself. If I had not come and spoken to them, then they would have no sin. But now they have no excuse for their sin. You can change the slide. Thank you. And an encouragement in that, it's James chapter 2:12. So speak and do. Speak and then prove it out as those who are to be judged by the Torah of freedom. And you're okay to go back to Deuteronomy. That was perfect. So here, again, this is pretty obvious to us. You can see I have some things highlighted. It's kind of faint, but you can see to fear Yah, to love, to walk, and to love and to serve. But there's one that isn't highlighted. I want to see if you can catch it. So and now Yisrael, what is Yahweh your Elohim asking of you but to fear Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in all his ways and to love him and to serve Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, to guard the commands of Yahweh and his laws, which I command you today for your good. See, in the guarding is where we fall short sometimes. That's how you prove your loyalty to the Father. Because it's not in speech, it's in action. So if we don't guard, what do? We open ourselves up to forget. And if we forget what Yahweh has commanded us, then how is it that we continue to believe that is an action of love? Forgetting is what makes us be ungrateful. It causes what he's done to be diminished in our eyes. But what the counter of that is to be loyal and to be consistent. And in doing so, it proves that we can make ourselves worthy over time. And that's that whole idea of not growing weary. We're going to not grow weary. Let us grow to become worthy. Could you please change the slide? So this now we're going to take a look at. We looked at the proof. Now we're going to look at the expressions of love. And this is where I think we often find all of our examples in this category of this expression, because it has a lot of an emotional context to it sometimes. But here we're going to see the Messiah has the best question has the best answer towards my question, which, okay, how do we live it out? How do we live out these things? Well, in Matthew 22, we have this wonderful thing. Someone asked the Messiah, what is the greatest command in the Torah? And Yeshua said to him, you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, with all your mind. That's coming from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. And then he makes this very intense statement, and the second is like it. The second is like it. So he's trying to tell us that they're equal. These two things he's about to say. Because he was asked to answer one question, but here you can see he gives two answers. The second is like it. and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two hang the commands, the Torah, all the prophets. I love this because with this, it kind of gives the idea of hanging your favorite art piece or whatever, something you value, and you don't want it to be crooked. So you have a nail in one corner and a nail in the other. So thinking that on that's the idea that I'm getting when I think about what the master is saying, that this idea of what is great according to the Messiah is held up by these two things. It seems so simple. So it's really got me thinking about, as you said, love Yah with all your heart, with all your being, with all your might, all your strength, and your neighbor. So is love determined by the giver or the receiver? It's just something that really, because often we're thinking, oh, I'm giving, I'm showing, I'm giving it. But if it's not being received, are we really giving it? And it got me thinking about the parable of the Good Samaritan. And in that context, it's such in its simplest form, I'll try to say there is a man who showed complete Ahavah to a total stranger. And I think this was the best example of it. Regardless of where this person came from, that it didn't matter if he was a free person, it didn't matter if he was a slave, it didn't matter if he looked like him, it didn't matter if he had tassels on, it didn't matter. Whatever it was, this individual received complete love. It didn't matter if he was ritually clean, impure, it was regarded, all those things didn't matter. And I think that that is one of the simplest ways of what does it look like in a sense? Doing for someone in this context, everything that he did, if you're familiar with the story, those things, that was love. And Yochanan, 1 John 4:20 says, if anyone says, I love Elohim and hates his brother, he's a liar. For the one not loving his brother, whom he has seen, how is he able to love Elohim, whom he has not seen? And we have this command from him, the him being Yeshua, that the one loving Elohim should love his brother also. So what I'm seeing here is that to love Yah with all your heart and to love your neighbor the same is that's just a wow thing for me, because I know I've fallen short so many times here, thinking that I'm just right in the Father's eyes, but in my brother's eyes, I'm scorned. Because it's really easy to say, oh, I'm loving Yah, because I can't see his reaction. Can't see it. But I can see yours. I can see my neighbors, my wife's. And there's been plenty of times where their response was not good at all. What I gave them it wasn't love. Even though I thought I was right with Yah. But how can I say I'm right with Yah, but I'm wrong with you? That's not love. And so we have another proof. Even Yeshua said he did it himself. And I love the way it's recorded in Romans. It says, but Elohim proves his own love for us, that while we were still sinners, Mashiach died for us. So we got to love people where they are. That's what the point. We need to stop waiting for someone to just stop being themselves. Maybe we got to start giving. So, yeah, let me go here. So again, with those statements, I'm seeing it as it's connected to acts of kindness and obedience, righteousness, and compassion. Not just this emotional connection, which is what bases us. That's what a lot of our expression is. But is it a service? It's a service that takes place, and that service is called love. Often we can read in the scriptures and the writings and the good news. It says of the Messiah, he was moved with compassion. We have that statement recorded about 6 times. And every time it was written, it was about the master's feelings. No, it was about his place of action. So sometimes being moved with compassion should mean that I'm overcoming my own intentions. I'm overcoming all the things that are against me, giving the same heart Yah would have in this situation, and setting aside my ways to do what is right. And that is enough. And we can see that our emotions do play a role. Of course, they are important on how we will act and refer and I mean do and move through things. And I'm looking at that as an attitude. So when we are filled with compassion, when we're being filled with that way, is it something that passes through our teeth? Is it something that, you know, because if we get so caught up in the words of it, we can forget that there's false actions too, because the Messiah was betrayed through a kiss. So our tone and our expressions really do matter. They really do. And genuineness is what we need to offer. There's this thing called a Duchenne smile. So the whole thing behind it is that, like, when you're being authentic, it shows. It's an identifier. It can't be fake. So we're talking about love. This concept, pretty much, for faking it till you make it, shouldn't be considered as a method of love. Because if we really are loving, that means we're forgiving. We're not keeping a record of wrongs. There's a lot of different things that will show us that faking it isn't going to be the key. Because if I'm faking it, am I really letting go? Am I really moving on? Am I really growing past it? So, if you could change the slide. So, I wanted to see what a demonstration for Ahavah in the scriptures. What is like a good thing to look at? And sometimes we just need to keep it simple, and having a quick rundown on, a cool how-to guide. It's so long, I can't put it on a slide. So if you have your scripts, go ahead and turn to Romans chapter 12. Starting in verse 9, I'm going to just like go through this list. And hopefully I don't get stuck, because there's a lot of good stuff in here. So, how to show love according to the scriptures. Be without hypocrisy. Shrink from what is wicked and cling to what is good. Be tender towards one another. Don't be idle in your duty, but be ardent in the spirit. Serve the master. Rejoice. Be hopeful. Be hopeful. Endure under pressure. Continue faithfully in prayer. Give to others. Pursue kindness towards strangers. Bless those who persecute you, and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Be of the same mind towards one another. See, you can't fake that. You don't just agree to. No, no, no. We're genuinely going to agree. It's going to be real. We're going to have the same mind. And when we do that, we're not proud. When we do that, we're not wise in our own estimation. When we do that, we're not repaying evil for evil. If I agree with you, it's good. We respect these things. We respect what is right in the sight of all men. That means we don't rejoice with what is wrong. Being different isn't, how can I say? We don't want to use our differences as a place to create conflict. Let's learn and let's be of the same mind. And then here's the one that I find so much. Verse 19. Don't revenge yourself, for it says, Yahweh shall repay. Vengeance is mine. We don't need to force things to be corrected or make things right. Love doesn't do that. Instead, offer this. If your enemy hungers, feed him. If he thirsts, give him a drink. In doing so, you shall heap coals of fire on his head. And that we shall not be overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good. This is a simple how-to. I know that if we are all doing these things, what shalom would we be lacking? But too often we are hypocritical. Too often we are so wise that we can't be corrected. Too often we are in a place to where evil is just, it's just got our attention, and we just got to give it right back. And I just know that if we find out how to rejoice with those who rejoice, why would I want to take your joy away from you and turn it into sorrow? Why would I want you to be bitter? Not all of those feelings to drag someone out of a place of joy. That just shows that's the pressure. Their joy is putting pressure on you, and it's going to reveal who you really are, who I really am. So if you could please change the slide. Coming in, finish. So we're going to get into a tough spot, and this is about love and correction. So there's something that often stands out to me. The Messiah has said a lot of things that have really grabbed people's attention, and I call them the harsh word. So love and correction on how to do it, or how to receive it in this context. It's going to be, there are sometimes harsh words. Harsh words that are spoken at the right moment have the ability to steer you in the right direction. It's about seeking what is good, not about being pleased. And we have an example of this. I think everybody has this in their life. Has somebody ever said something to you that hurt your feelings, but is exactly what needed to be said? It was exactly what needed to be said. So these things grab your attention because it's seeking to save your life. So that we see that there are words that can both smite and heal. And as is written here in Job, look, blessed is the man whom Eloah is another way of expressing the word Elohim. It's excuse me, who Eloah does reprove. So do not despise the discipline of the Almighty. That is huge. Because I know too often when we get spanked, we get whooped, that's not love. If you love me, why would you put me through this? Nah, that is the love. For he bruises, but he binds up. He smites, but his hands heal. And I'm saying this, that the wounded and the healed, that's what Yah does. And it's both. So we can't just say it's all good. Sometimes the growth is going to come through the bruises. The growth is going to come through the stumble. It's going to come through the reflection of my face in the puddle on the ground. You know, the fact that I put myself here and that the master is also the one who could say to me, come up. So we have to remember that just discipline is not rejection. I'm going to borrow this, but redirection. Praise Yah. If you could change the slide. So there's this idea that we say, share the truth in love. So for me, often people use this in a crazy way. And I mean crazy, like it doesn't bring the fruit we want it to. So this is share the truth of love. This is not an excuse. Because if you look at this verse, maintaining the truth, some translations go sharing the truth in love. You can use that. I looked at it in the Greek. I could see how they got that. But here, it's not an excuse to spill our grievances or complain about something. That's different. That's not the harsh word, love, love. It is not an emotional response, but it's the truth. It's not how you feel. And so here's an example. So the Messiah was speaking with a woman at a well once. And when the master called her out concerning her sin and what's going on in her life and how many husbands she had and that her current husband wasn't even her husband, which there's a part that's missing here, and it's a shouting match. It didn't become a shouting match or an argument. What he was doing, he was giving her a choice to receive living water from him. And that was something that would change her life forever. And even though if you read it, you can see they didn't see everything the same way, but she still received his words and believed. And she believed. We know that she was never the same. So sharing the truth and love is not about arguing. It's not about shouting or cussing. Here's another example. What about when the prophet Nathan goes to David with that powerful statement, you are the man, you know, after he was caught in the adultery situation he got stuck in. So David here was being judged by the prophet Nathan. And there again, there wasn't an argument. What needed to be said was said, and it was heard and received. That's a whole lot unlike what I've done in the past. Or, you know, after you yell at somebody and you start raising your voice and speaking to somebody in that sense, who can receive those words and who's going to repent after that, after being shouted at and insulted? That's not of the Most High. Is that really of the Most High? But it says here, maintaining. In Ephesians 4:15, maintaining the truth in love. Like some translations say, like I said earlier, but if we take that back to the Hebrew, there's a couple different words that we can pull to use in that sense of for maintaining. So pretty much we could go to just say that it's saying to do what is right, to reciprocate. But I'm looking at it really to practice the truth and love. We grow up, not just talk about it, practice it into the head who is Messiah. Ephesians 4:25, therefore having put off, as we've heard it said plenty of times, put off. I have to put off thinking arguments are going to change. I have to put off thinking, speaking to people and just vomiting all my insight that's not going to change it. But when you put that off, then you could speak the truth in love, each one with his neighbor, for we are members of Mashiach. And then it's written, I have a couple other, we need to realize that if we do tell the truth, that it can cause someone to see you as an enemy. But it doesn't mean that's the right for us to start breaking out in arguments. And then we also need to remember that because of lawlessness, the love of many shall grow cold. So you got to know that even though the truth was said and it was said properly, if it's not received, lawlessness is increased. And you've done what you or that act of love you were supposed to do. If you could please change the slide. So here's a tough one. Love is not people pleasing. So everyone being happy with you, it may not always, I'm not saying that it's not a good thing, but when you got to look at it this way sometimes, that everyone being happy with you just may be some form of conformity to them. So, and not to him. So being dependent on others for my happiness is slavery. It's slavery to the flesh. And then even more harshly, it's slavery to the flesh of others because I'm living my life in their preferences. I've made myself yoked onto being seen was pretty much the only things that are good is when they're happy with me. So our ultimate goal isn't to live like that, but to let all the things that we're seeking is that we are seeking to live a pleasing life to Yah. That our emotional dependency can be taken for love, mistaken for love, but it often just stems from a place of insecurity and lack of self worth. We're valuable to the Father. And here I find as an encouragement, Tehillim, Psalm 118. This whole thing is amazing. It's one of my favorites. It is better to take refuge in Yahweh than to trust in man. It is better to take refuge in Yahweh than to trust in princes. So, no matter what authority, we should be seeking our refuge. And I mean authority in the sense that they put in contrast the common man and the prince. Somebody who can help you. A prince can do a lot for you. You can do all sorts of things to gain favor in the sight of man, but depending on their position, they can do a whole lot more. But he's telling us not to seek to be increased through the things of man, but to take confidence in Yah. Because if we seek refuge in man, it's like fleeing into a straw house before a fire. Can't save you. We got to remember that this is the same, trusting in man is the same as trusting in the flesh. We are to deny the flesh and to trust Yah. So this isn't the sense that we don't have friends, we don't confide in people, we don't want to just, have people we trust. That's not what this is. What we're saying is we don't let our friendships become a place that they have replaced our trust in Yah, such as people with money, with power, with popularity, with influence, people who accept you no matter what. Nah, we have to remember that we are in a place of love, growth, and correction. So if somebody's constantly overlooking my wrongs, and they're doing it intentionally. Not that we have foolish ways sometimes, and sometimes we don't know someone's being punished, and we try to comfort them. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about making mistakes. I'm talking about doing it willfully. In fact, Maury Arnava put the quote up in the chat today. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Take darkness for light and light for darkness. This is something intentional. What I'm talking about. So we got to remember, Yah being pleased with you has nothing to do with how you make him feel, but rather, are we acting as he intended us to? Could you change the slide, please? So here we're going to land. So in conclusion, I'm saying that we're going to be, this is like a call to action. So just to review some of the key points that we had gone over, the Ahavah is choosing to give my best self, selflessly, to everyone. And that its source is Yah and what he did for us, what he did for me by Yeshua HaMashiach. And that the proof is my obedience and my loyalty. And my expression is in my actions towards both the Most High and towards others, my neighbors. So this leads me more to like a challenge, just like how Abraham was challenged. That let us move beyond just thinking about being loved. Sometimes that's the only thing that comforts us. Instead, let's shift our focus onto giving love, showing love as he loved. Let us not just say we love, but let our lives and our actions be the proof of our loyalty and our love to Yah and to all that he has done. So this gets me thinking, like, the greatest act of love is the Messiah laying down his life. He created a path back to the Father, freeing us from the penalty of death. Hallelujah. And it is written in Yeshayahu 25, verse 8. He shall swallow up death forever, and the master shall wipe away the tears from all faces and take away the reproach of his people from all the earth. For Yahweh has spoken. And unlike us, what Yahweh says, he does. It's amazing. And I just think the fact of such a wonderful gift has been made available to us. Why would we throw it away? So here, this powerful statement that we should have as a reminder. No one has greater love than this, that one should lay down his life for his friends. Is that not giving selflessly? And if you could change the last slide to the last slide, please. What is our greatest act of love obedience today? What was it? Make no room for the flesh, and you shall not, make no room for the flesh, and you shall accomplish the desire of the Ruach. Hallelujah, or the Spirit. All right. It's been a pleasure sharing this good news with you. May it be encouragement to you as it was to me. All glory be to Yahweh in Yeshua. Amen.